case of an emergency, an oxygen mask will not drop from above.
There is no life jacket under your seat.
Don't put your phone on flight mode, you might need it.
Make sure you know where your nearest exit is because you might want to get off this trip.
Welcome to the Real Drug Talk safety video.
Here's a little pro tip. One way to stay completely safe from the harm of drugs is to not do them.
Life hack!
It might feel like everyone around you is doing drugs, but the actual fact is most people don't. They might say they are, but it doesn't mean they actually are.
When you're young, you are more susceptible to the negative effects of drugs. And the more you take, the worse the potential effects are. So the one way to stay safe from drug harm is not to take any at all.
I am a bad person to have on this video because my feelings on drugs and alcohol are severely skewered by the fact that I've never done any drugs or alcohol. Basically zero. So my feelings, I guess, are I avoid them because that's the way I live my life, but each to their own. But if you're looking for some like hardened drug stories about being on the streets, I'm probably a bad person to talk to.
But some people do end up taking drugs, so if you decide to, here's how to stay safe.
If you're using drugs or drinking and considering driving, just don't do it.
It's a good idea to have a sober driver before you head out and make sure to big up them before you head out because they're doing a job that no one else wants to do.
Yes, definitely have been the sober driver. I've got a really great group of friends where there's always somebody who volunteers, and actually more often than not it's the guys, and they're really trustworthy and I feel really safe in their hands.
Just make sure you know how you're getting home, because unlike rapping, it's not something you can freestyle.
If you're on any other medication, then you need to research how it's going to be affected by other drugs or alcohol.
You need to be really careful if you have been taking sleeping pills, anti-anxiety, antidepressants, anti-epileptic or antipsychotic medication.
Those medications, mixed with the other type of drugs, are not a good time.
Plan how much you're going to take, and if it's something new, try a smaller amount.
Like I've had an experience where I had hash cookies, like marijuana oil cookies, and for things like that you really don't know how much you're getting, and I had a whole cookie and thought it was all good, and then an hour later I was like zonked out on the floor and like freaking out. So yeah, you really just got to know what you're getting into and do your research and be knowledgeable about the facts.
If you're given something at a festival, try and work out what it is. This is not a situation for lucky dips.
At some music festivals, drug checking stands allow people to find out what is actually in their drugs.
Have I ever been offered anything and I didn't know what it was? Hell yes, I have. Don't do it. Scary stuff.
If you are planning on taking drugs at a festival and there's a drug checking stand, go get your drugs checked, just so you know exactly what it is that you're taking.
Pre-planning is key. If you're going out drinking, put a glass of water beside your bed. It's like a little present from your sober self.
When you're drinking, try and have 1 glass of water in between every drink. So for every one, have 1 and stay hydrated.
And don't forget to eat something too.
If you're smoking weed, don't mix it with tobacco. You can get confused as to how much you're actually smoking.
And instead of smoking it, if you ate it, you might want to wait for at least an hour or so until you feel the full effects, because what you think might be the high might not be the full high yet.
If you're on MDMA, make sure you take a break from dancing, no matter how smooth you think your moves are, and drink some water.
And 1 pill might actually have more than 1 dose in it, so maybe just start with a half. And don't snort it, because if it's not MDMA, then it could be rat poison going straight to your brain.
If you're gonna take pee, don't inject it, remember to eat, and don't take it late in the day because you won't sleep.
And brush your teeth. I reckon we could work out why.
If you take mushrooms or LSD, just know that it can affect you for a whole day. So make sure you've got a quiet place to go and a sober person who knows what you've taken nearby.
And a word of advice, don't take LSD if you're in a bad space.
Whatever you've taken, look up how long it takes to recover from it.
Make sure you don't have any important events coming up soon, and get the food and water you need to feel yourself again.
Tips and tricks to help with hangovers. Some of them good at. Powerade, a lot of sugar in it. Try coconut water. Gets your electrolytes. But seriously, if you do feel hungover the next day, or you've made a bit of a mistake and you're like, oh no, what do I do? How do I get myself out of this? Just stay hydrated. Get as much liquid down you as force it down you. If you feel really, really, sometimes hangovers can feel so bad, everything's so loud and you just can't move, or you're just vomiting too much, just suck it up, go to the doctor, go to the A&E, because you don't know what happened to you last night. Sometimes it could be a lot worse. There's other things that can happen at parties. You can have your drink spiked, and sometimes you think it's just a bad hangover, but there could be something else going on inside. So, don't freak out too much. Make sure you stay hydrated, but maybe tell someone that you're feeling pretty bad, and you got to wait a few hours, and if it doesn't pass, go to the doctor. I've had times where I've been pretty close, but if you're responsible, you let someone know that you've had a bit too much to drink the night before, you should be okay. Get yourself some McDonald's if you can hold some food down.
So once you've got your oxygen mask sorted, it's time to help others get theirs on.
With this metaphor, we're not saying take drugs through an oxygen mask, we're just saying keep your mates safe and well.
If your mates are getting wasted and you've elected to be the sober one, that's awesome. Just make sure everyone's doing okay, they've all got a way home, they've got food, they've got water, and just if they need a quiet place, make sure they've got that as well so you can take them there. Zen.
I feel like everyone's seen someone get really wasted at some point. I do know someone who did have a really bad reaction to drugs. Won't name anyone. Don't even know what the hell it was that she took. But all I can say is it ended in tears, literally, in the back of the car, crying, her eyes out. And it kind of ruined our night.
If you're getting drunk or high, it doesn't mean that everyone else around you needs to try and keep up. It's not cool to pressure anyone else to get any kind of level of wasted.
There wasn't huge pressure on me growing up to take drugs or alcohol. I found that the people who did pressure or were kind of dicks about it were people you didn't want to hang out with anyway, and it was normally a flag that you should probably avoid them if they're going to be munters about it.
Just because the people around you are drunk or high doesn't mean you need to catch up either.
It's just like how I wouldn't force someone to listen to Little Mix just because I want to listen to Little Mix, but with drugs.
Also, don't post photos of your mates being wasted without asking them. I'm saying that as advice. But also to you, Jack, please take down that photo of me stuck on a swing.
And if things go wrong on a night out and you're worried about a mate, it's better to be safe than sorry. Stay with them and call an ambulance.
Some of the warning signs that maybe your mate isn't doing so good could be that they can't stand up straight, they can't keep their eyes open, they're anxious, or their lips have gone really pale and blue, and they did not put makeup on to get that look. That look ain't fierce.
If things get really bad, they might be unconscious, not breathing, or having a seizure. Don't be afraid to be a hero. Call an ambulance, get your friends some help.
If someone is unconscious or vomiting, check and monitor their breathing. Put them on their side with their knees bent so they don't roll over and they don't choke. If they're not breathing, call an ambulance and follow their instructions to start chest compressions. Stay with them and keep them warm.
And we get it. Sometimes it feels like you're just living for the weekend.
But you can live for the weekend without that ruining your whole week.
Think about your schedule. Do you have a big test coming up? A big game? Prize giving? Don't get wasted the night before.
Don't be the person on drugs all the time. Take breaks, so that means full days, weeks, or months off drinking or taking any drugs.
If you're constantly ditching your mates or staying home because you've had big nights, you might want to consider slowing down.
Growing up in New Zealand's hard. Drugs and alcohol are everywhere. You're growing up, it's at home, it's in the fridge. You go and play sports, it's at the sports clubs. You go and hang out with mates, it's everywhere. And so that pressure, we're born into that pressure that we also have to follow that path. We don't.
We know we've said this before, but the safest decision is to not take drugs. But if you're going to, make sure you plan for the high and plan for the come down.
Those were our safety instructions, and whether you're flying sober or not, make sure to keep yourself and others safe. Matiwa.
Big ups, New Zealand On Air.